This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor.
This is just me talking about my personal financial journey. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Enjoy the show.
Imagine living in a town, right, where everyone knows your face.
Oh yeah, like a real tight-knit place.
Exactly. They know your family, they know your entire history, but absolutely no one will hire you for a meaningful role.
Right, yeah. You're just totally shut out.
Yeah, you walk down Main Street, you see the local business owners, you wave at the bank manager, you pay your taxes.
Doing everything right, basically.
Right, and you are universally recognized as a hardworking, likable person. Yet every single time a managerial position opens up or, every time a city contract is on the table, the door just slams in your face.
Yeah, it's brutal.
The jobs always go to the cousin of the mayor or the guy who plays golf with the local real estate developer. So today, we are looking at a case study of a person who used that exact social exile to secretly build a $100,000 financial fortress right under the local elite's noses.
It is a phenomenal case study, honestly, because it entirely upends our standard models of social mobility.
It really does.
We are so conditioned to believe that wealth is generated by, climbing the visible ladder in your immediate environment.
Right, playing the game.
Exactly. But this subject realized the ladder was literally pulled up, so they bypassed the environment completely.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to analyze a fascinating modern socioeconomic phenomenon, which is breaking the invisible class barriers of a small town from the inside out.
It's such an important topic.
It is. We have a mountain of notes and research on this specific individual's journey, and honestly, it is a masterclass in silent rebellion.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the mechanics of how they built this $100,000 portfolio, we first have to map out the architecture of the trap they were living in.
Yeah, that architecture is what we in behavioral economics call a closed-loop system.
A closed-loop system.
Right. In a tight-knit small town, the visible job market is not a meritocracy. Not at all. It is a defensive network.
Okay, defensive how? Like they're protecting themselves.
Precisely. The prominent businesses, the local government positions, the managerial roles, these are tightly controlled by a very small, highly interconnected group of insiders.
Right, the golf buddies and the cousins.
Exactly.
Wow.
And when resources are scarce, which, let's face it, they usually are in small towns, nepotism isn't necessarily just malice. It is a biological defensive mechanism to keep wealth circulating strictly among a trusted few.
Wow. Okay, so it's less like a traditional job market and more like a private country club where the entry rules are secretly rigged. Or actually, no, it's like a localized intranet.
Oh, I like that. An intranet.
Yeah, like the elites control the servers, they assign the passwords, and if you aren't in their specific social network, your IP address is permanently blocked.
That is a brilliant way to frame it.
You can be the most qualified software engineer in the world, right? But if the admin won't grant you access to the internet, you can't even send an email.
Exactly. And the danger of living on the outside of that intranet is what it does to the psychology of validation.
The psychology of validation. Break that down for us.
Well, humans are profoundly social creatures, right?
Yeah.
We are biologically wired to seek validation from our immediate physical community.
Right. We want our neighbors to like us. We want to be useful.
Yes. So when the people who control the resources in your immediate zip code reportedly reject you, the default human response is to internalize it. You assume your code is broken.
Oh, wow. So you internalize a systemic bottleneck as a personal defect.
Exactly.
You start thinking, I must not be smart enough, I must not be working hard enough, when in reality, your competence was never the variable being measured.
Precisely. In a closed-loop system, rejection is rarely a reflection of your talent or your worth.
It's just the system.
Yes. It is simply a symptom of the system functioning exactly as it was designed to function, keeping insiders in and outsiders out.
That is so wild.
The rejection is about your coordinates in their social network, not your capability. But realizing that is incredibly difficult when you're the one constantly being passed over for a promotion, by someone with half your qualifications and twice your local pedigree.
Right. The mayor's nephew gets the job, and you're left wondering what's wrong with you. Which brings up the central friction of this entire case study.
Yeah.
If you are that everyday worker waking up every morning to a reality that constantly dictates you aren't, quote unquote, one of us, how do you keep going?
It's a huge burden.
It really is. If the local internet keeps rejecting your login, where do you find the bandwidth to build something else?
This raises an important question. What happens when an individual finally accepts that the local game is structurally rigged against them?
Right. What are the options?
Well, most people face two predictable outcomes. They either surrender and accept their low status, just slowly fading into the background.
Just giving up.
Right. Or they become consumed by a toxic, paralyzing bitterness toward their neighbors.
Oh, yeah, the resentment. I mean, we've all seen that.
Exactly. But our subject chose a radical third option. They stopped seeking validation from a system that was never built to include them.
They realized they didn't need a password to the local intranet if they could just connect to the global internet.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. Transitioning from that realization to actual execution is where this story gets heavy.
Very heavy.
Because this person was not operating from a position of privilege. They didn't have a sudden windfall or a rich uncle bankrolling their escape.
No, not at all.
They were surviving on a microscopic budget, and then right in the middle of trying to navigate this social exile, they lost their father to COVID.
It's just a catastrophic compounding of adversity.
To put it mildly, yeah. I mean, the sheer emotional bandwidth required to just make a cup of coffee in the morning when you are grieving a parent under those circumstances is staggering.
Absolutely staggering.
You are alienated by your town, you're squeezed financially by an inflationary crisis, and you lose your father to a sudden global pandemic. Usually, that level of trauma narrows a person's focus purely to base-level survival.
It does. Grief of that magnitude often strips away any capacity for long-term planning.
Right.
But in certain instances, it can also act as an intense clarifying force.
Clarifying how so?
Well, when you are confronted with profound mortality and loss, the opinions of the local country club committee suddenly seem incredibly trivial.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The grief strips away the need for social performance.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the stripping away of that social performance is exactly what funded their escape.
Yes.
When you stop caring about what the local elites think of you, you stop spending money trying to mimic them.
Exactly. You stop playing their game.
You stop buying the rounds of drinks you can't afford. You stop financing a car just to keep up appearances. And that behavioral shift, that's what freed up the micro-budget.
Exactly. And they directed that freed up capital toward exploiting the fundamental vulnerability of those local elites.
Okay, and what is that vulnerability?
We refer to this as the illusion of local power.
The illusion of local power.
Right. In a small town, the elites seem omnipotent because they control the visible physical space. They own the bank, the dealership, the nice offices.
Yeah, they literally own Main Street.
But their power is geographically bounded. It stops dead at the town line.
So they rule a kingdom of a few square miles.
And not an inch further.
Hmm?
The realization the subject had was that global financial markets act as the ultimate invisible escape hatch.
An invisible escape hatch.
Yes. The global equities market, decentralized networks, commodities, they are purely mathematical. They are utterly indifferent to local social hierarchies.
The market does not care who your father was.
Exactly. It doesn't care what small town you live in, and it certainly doesn't care if the local bank manager likes you.
I have to pause and look at the mechanics of this, though, because the math of escaping a small town is usually brutally physical.
Right, the classic narrative.
Yeah, the traditional narrative is that you pack up a U-Haul, you drive to a massive city, and you try to reinvent yourself.
The physical escape.
But that physical escape requires thousands of dollars in upfront capital. It requires a safety net and the willingness to abandon your home. What strikes me here is the invisible nature of this rebellion.
It's completely internal.
Right. They grieved their parent, they stayed in their childhood town, and they forged an internal escape route on a tight budget.
They opted out of the local economy while physically remaining inside of it. It is an extraordinary decoupling of geographical location and financial destiny.
But let's dig into the actual portfolio, because this is where I really need to challenge the narrative a bit.
Okay, let's do it.
The subject built a $100,000 portfolio spanning index funds, crypto, and metals.
All right.
I have to push back on the crypto allocation here. You just said this person was navigating profound grief, living on a razor-thin budget during an inflationary period,
Yep.
taking scarce hard-earned capital and throwing it into a notoriously volatile asset class like crypto seems, well, incredibly reckless.
It sounds like it, yes.
That doesn't sound like disciplined financial planning. That sounds like a desperate gamble.
Well, if they had put their entire budget into it, I would completely agree with you. It would be financial suicide.
Right.
But what the case study reveals is a highly sophisticated application of a barbell strategy.
A barbell strategy. Okay, explain that.
When you are on a tight budget, you cannot afford significant losses, right? But you also mathematically cannot build life-altering wealth on a small timeline without asymmetric upside.
So you mitigate the risk through aggressive allocation sizing.
Exactly. The vast majority of their capital was not in volatile assets. It was methodically dollar-cost averaged into broad market index funds.
Okay, so the safe, steady route.
Right. But a small calculated percentage was allocated to crypto to provide escape velocity. The volatility is the feature, not the bug, provided the exposure is strictly capped.
And the mechanism of crypto itself plays into the psychology of their situation, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It is borderless and permissionless. You don't need the local bank manager to approve your account.
No approval needed.
Right. You don't need a minimum wealth threshold to open a digital wallet. You bypass the legacy gatekeepers entirely.
What's fascinating here is how every single pillar of this specific portfolio represents a total systematic detachment from local control. Consider the heavy allocation to index funds.
Okay, building the fortress out of index funds. By defaulting to a total market index, they essentially shorted their own town's economy and went long on global human productivity.
That is exactly the behavioral mechanism at play. If the local hardware store goes under, or, the elites decide to lay off half the factory workers to protect their own margins, the subject's index fund does not care.
It's completely insulated.
Yes. They hitch their financial wagon to the collective output of the planet's largest corporations, completely insulating themselves from the economic whims of their immediate neighbors.
And then you balance that out with the physical metals, gold and silver.
Right.
Which honestly felt a bit antiquated to me when I first read the case study.
It does seem old school.
But in the context of being deeply alienated from your local community, it makes perfect sense.
It really does.
If you don't trust the local institutions, like if the insiders literally run the bank, holding tangible, off-grid assets gives you a psychological anchor.
It is wealth that requires no counterparty. A gold coin in a safe does not rely on a bank server.
No.
It doesn't rely on an internet connection, and it certainly doesn't rely on the goodwill of a local loan officer. It is the oldest form of financial sovereignty.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you combine these three elements, the steady global compounding of index funds, the permissionless asymmetry of crypto, and the counterparty-free security of physical metals, you have built a fortress that the local elites cannot touch, manipulate, or even perceive.
Brick by brick, dollar by dollar, pushing through the grief of losing a father, they systematically funded this fortress.
It's incredible discipline.
Which brings us to the $100,000 milestone and the physical reality of what that money actually does to a human being.
This is the best part.
Because to the naked eye, this person's day-to-day life looks identical to how it looked 10 years ago.
It is the ultimate unseen transformation. Stealth wealth in its purest form.
Right, like they might still be driving the same 10-year-old car. They're still walking down the same main street, wearing the same clothes.
Exactly.
To the local elites who rejected them, this person is still just the quiet local who never quite, quote-unquote, meet it.
But beneath the surface, the biological and psychological reality has entirely shifted.
Okay, unpack that. The biological reality.
We call this state financial insulation, and it creates a profound biological response.
Okay.
When you are living paycheck to paycheck with zero savings, you are forced to be highly reactive to your environment.
Right, everything is an emergency.
Exactly. A minor car repair is a life-altering crisis. A condescending remark from a local boss is genuinely terrifying because you need their paycheck to keep a roof over your head.
You have no buffer.
None. You are inherently biologically submissive to the people who hold the capital.
Your cortisol levels are permanently spiked because you are financially naked. Every interaction is a threat assessment.
Yes. But when you build a $100,000 buffer between yourself and the world, your baseline physiology changes.
Your stress levels plummet.
Your resting heart rate drops. And most importantly, your physical posture in social interactions alters.
Wait, really? Your posture changes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When this individual now interacts with the local elites who used to hold absolute power over them, the dynamic is entirely different.
You can just smile, nod, and let their arrogance wash right over you because you know for a mathematical fact that they have absolutely zero leverage over your survival.
Zero leverage.
You don't need their promotion. You don't need their invitation to the country club. You have basically no thank you money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It fundamentally changes your long-term decision-making matrix. You're no longer making choices based on scarcity or the fear of local retribution.
You're operating from a different baseline.
You are making choices from a position of quiet, unassailable strength. And the elites might subconsciously pick up on this sudden lack of desperation, even if they have no idea where it's coming from.
So what does this all mean? I want to speak directly to you listening right now, because I think we need to validate the sheer magnitude of the psychological victory.
It's massive.
In modern culture, we are aggressively conditioned to believe that success has to be loud.
Oh, totally.
We are sold this narrative that if you overcome the doubters, you have to buy the flashy car, you have to move into the massive house on the hill, and visibly rub your success in the faces of everyone who ever rejected you.
The pervasive look at me now phenomenon?
Yes.
It is an incredibly hollow form of victory because it still relies on the validation of the people you claim to despise.
Exactly. If you buy a sports car just to make the local elites jealous, they still control your behavior. You are still playing on their intranet.
You're still trapped.
The ultimate victory here isn't about proving the town insiders wrong on their own terms. It is about the profound internal peace of walking through that same town, breathing the same air, and knowing in your bones that you have entirely opted out of their game.
It's true freedom.
That quiet, invisible confidence, that is real, tangible power.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals something essential about human agency and systemic barriers.
Okay, tell me.
Financial independence, especially when built in secret, does far more than just pay the bills. It permanently rewires how you interact with a restrictive environment.
It changes the rules of engagement.
It shatters that invisible glass ceiling, but it shatters it entirely from the inside out. You haven't changed the town, you haven't changed the elites, but you have utterly neutralized their ability to dictate your potential.
It is a beautiful and radical reframing of what upward mobility can actually look like.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into this incredible case study, let's distill the core actionable takeaways for everyone listening.
Okay, let's summarize.
Number 1, local power is very often just an illusion. A specific social network might control the visible jobs on your immediate main street, but their influence is geographically capped.
Number 2, being rejected by a closed-loop system is not a reflection of your competence, your talent, or your inherent value.
So true.
It is simply the mechanical functioning of a system designed to protect its insiders. Do not internalize a network bottleneck as a personal failure.
And number 3, the global markets offer an invisible, permissionless escape hatch. Through disciplined behavioral shifts, like redirecting the energy and money you used to spend seeking validation, you can systematically build life-altering financial insulation.
Yes.
And you can do it right under the noses of the people trying to keep you down.
And we truly must take a moment to validate the immense emotional fortitude required to pull this off.
Oh, absolutely.
To execute a decade-long strategy of systematic investing while navigating the traumatic grief of losing a father and while managing a microscopic budget during an inflationary era, I mean, it is a testament to extraordinary resilience.
It really is.
The absolute definition of quiet strength.
It takes a vastly different kind of bravery to stay in the maze, keep your head down, and quietly dig a tunnel out rather than just screaming at the walls.
Well said.
We have talked a lot today about invisible barriers, those unspoken social dynamics that are designed to keep everyday people in their place. But as we leave you today, I want you to mull over one final thought.
What?
If true freedom and true unassailable power can be entirely invisible to the people living right next door, how does that change the way we look at our neighbors? Or perhaps more importantly, how does it change the way we look at the invisible barriers we are currently facing in our own lives?
A powerful question to end on.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us. See you next time.